So an iPad exposes a cheating husband multiple times. So a mom has revealed that she discovered her husband was cheating after her daughter used the family iPad. But she has no plans to leave him, which is interesting. The anonymous woman started a since removed TikTok account called at our.broken.marriage, where she documented her husband's history of infidelity, the Sun reports. Now, the saddest part about this, just from this alone, is history, right? This dude has a history of cheating on his wife, right? What type of person cheats on the love of their life, apparently? If you're going to go down to that point, file for divorce and leave, right? Now, there's a whole bunch of potential financial issues that comes with potentially divorce, right? But the thing is, you gotta become a realist, right? When someone ends up cheating, straight up cheating, guess what? There's no longer any trust, right? Which can lead to even worse financial outcomes for the family, for their kid. Okay, so let's continue. So speaking in one of her earliest videos, she said, "So I've been with my husband about 11 years, and about 10 years ago, he went to Vegas and hooked up with a girl, and sometimes what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas." Okay? Think about that. It didn't even take him 2 years to cheat on her. So she explained that she told him that if he wasn't happy, he should leave. But ultimately, they decided to stay together and make it work. And while she occasionally felt paranoid, the marriage was good. Again, this statement alone, she occasionally felt paranoid. Think about that for a second. This will build up so much resentment, so much hate, so much dislike, very little trust. Why be in a relationship like this? But it didn't last. About 5 years ago, he reconnected with a friend from high school and they started flirtatiously texting. And it got to the point where they were making plans to escape and get away together, she explained. I found the text messages on Thanksgiving Day. It was devastating. Probably as not devastating as that turkey felt on the plate. It wrecked me so hard inside, that's what she said, to know that all of my suspicions and fears were valid. But despite his repeated infidelity, the wife decided to stay and they went on to start a family. Now, at this point, who should basically not necessarily be blamed, but basically be in this situation, be like, hey, it's not just on them, it's also on me. Because at first, just reading about this story, you could say oh, this guy's horrible, right? Which he still is horrible. Cheating on your wife, that is horrible. But she keeps going back, right? She keeps going back and she ended up having a family with him after all this. However, it seems her husband's wandering eye once again got the better of him. I thought we were over this, and as of this past Tuesday, I found out we weren't, she explained in another clip. I've realized that while my husband's out of town, his messages sync up to our family's iPad, and I was able to deep dive, and I am pretty disappointed by what I found. She said that her daughter had been playing on the family iPad when she accidentally opened up the messaging app. It was there that the wife discovered several flirtatious text exchanges between different women, including one who had sent him a topless selfie. But the third strike wasn't enough to push the woman away, and the pair have now sought marriage counseling. There's so many things wrong with this story, not just the betrayal of a husband cheating on their wife. That alone is horrendous, right? Because imagine cheating on someone that you basically promised to stay together forever and treat well, right? So there's already that wrong. 2, what kind of people are these two individuals? And I say both of these individuals because, one, like, what kind of character does he have for continuously cheating on his wife, even while they have a kid, right? And what kind of character does she have for continuously going back to this guy that keeps on basically treating her like a piece of meat, and not even a good piece of meat, right? This is basically like, I don't know, like the chicken gizzards or chicken heart, when all these other chicks are basically like steak or something, right? Like, you gotta like really wonder, how little does the wife value herself and her daughter to keep going back to this guy, okay? Now, here's the thing. It's always a great idea to try to work on a marriage, try to improve a marriage and all that kind of stuff, right? Not just emotionally, not just, mentally, but also financially, because, look, a lot of people don't really understand the devastation in terms of finances that a divorce can end up having on both parties of a relationship. That being said, regardless of the situations, there comes down to a point where you gotta be like, okay, we need to not be together for the healthy future of our family, aka our kid, right? Because you would think that both of them would actually want the best for their kid, and two parents that basically are always going to end up butting heads because one is always going to be cheating on the other and the other one is always going to be accusing the other one of cheating. What kind of relationship or effect will that have on their kid or future kids if they stay together, right? Which could end up leading down a very bad route for the kid in terms of their future, their financial future, their life, all that kind of stuff, right? So in this type of situation, the best thing to do is not get marriage counseling because, look, he obviously doesn't think that you're good enough, right? For whatever reason, he does not think that you are good enough, right? And you don't think you're good enough to be treated like a decent human being, right? And so for anyone who ends up like hearing about this or like listening to this episode, look at yourself in the mirror or lay down outside and look at the skies and clouds moving along and basically just ask yourself, do I value myself at all? Because if you do, you would never continuously put yourself in this situation, right? And you would never put your kids in this situation, right? Like, a lot of people don't really understand like the effects that this could potentially have, right? Because let's say that they continue to be together, right? That kid is going to be mentally affected and thinking they're like, oh, it's normal for a dad to cheat on their wife, right? A lot of people may not think that this is something that could potentially like affect other people. But this doesn't just affect themselves, this affects their whole family. This affects their friends, right? Like this affects so much more than what they think. And it's just such a bad situation, right? And look, again, divorce is a brutal financial, basically destruction, right? But Jesus, value yourself a little bit to be like, hey, I'll probably be better off not being with someone who doesn't give a single cent about me, right? And look, if you guys are like open before marriage about your intentions of basically sleeping around, that's a whole nother thing, right? But if you go into marriage with the assumption and the expectation that you guys are going to be monogamous and this stuff happens, guess what? You need to end it. So both my husband and I want our marriage to work. I call BS. He stepped out of our marriage and sought attention elsewhere, she said. Yeah, and he keeps on doing it over and over and over again. Feel free to get debt-free at 40inbox.com. Feel free to submit your own story that has some sort of inclination of like finances or money related kind of stuff, because this is so brutal. Like, please, whoever ends up like listening to this, feel free to share this with someone who you know may be dealing with this and be like, hey, love yourself, right? Because you could easily tell that she does not love herself to such a degree that she keeps going back with a dude that literally does not give a crap about her, right? Does not give a crap. Because again, the kind of guy that is going to cheat on their wife, the person that they basically promised to love forever and be with forever, okay, is nuts, right? Like no one can trust that guy ever in any situation. You cannot trust that guy in any situation. You cannot trust him with finances. You cannot trust him with business deals. You cannot trust him with anything, right? Of any value, right? Because that goes to show you what type of guy that is. And it goes to show you what type of girl she is for continuously going with that type of guy. Like, this is such like a screwed up situation. And look, again, if you go into a relationship with the understanding of one another, what you expect out of a marriage, out of a relationship, that is a whole nother thing. But that was not the case in this situation, right? Like, this was not the case